Hey everyone, Alex Bennett here at the PGA Tour Performance Center at TPC Sawgrass. I'm still continuing to answer questions from people. I had an absolutely great question from Nina. She asked, she sees a lot of videos about how to increase mobility. She asked, how do I decrease mobility? Meaning she's most likely hypermobile, right? And you can be hypermobile in your shoulders and not your hips, or your hips and not your shoulders. There's different levels of hypermobility as well. Sometimes we see these tour players that can do these freakish things with a club, and people are just like, man, they're crazy flexible, but they might be hypermobile. Those joints might just work differently than yours. Everybody's joints are different. So one of the things that I see a lot too is I do a lot of assessments on people. I've had a lot of people come to me and be like, yeah, I just continue to get injured, continue to, rib injuries, oblique injuries, shoulder injuries, neck injuries, whatever it may be. And they go, I need to continue to work on mobility. I need to get more flexible. I keep getting injured. And I do an assessment on them. I go, we don't need to get more flexible. We don't need to get more mobility. We actually need to tighten you up. We need to get more stability. You're actually hypermobile. That's going to lead to a lot of injuries if we're trying to push weight and we don't have the stability to really secure those joints. So, Nina, this is a great question. It's not covered much just because it's not a large part of the population that actually suffers from this issue, but it is pretty big. It's bigger than you'd think. So, I'm going to take you through some moves that I really like for increasing stability and some things you can do in the gym when you're working on your punches or your rows, just to really engage the core, really secure your torso, things like that. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of things like bird dog rows, anything that ties the core in to moves that are making you rotate your shoulders, stabilize at the same times. But developing an overall program that really focuses on stability and then strength is going to be really important for anyone with hypermobility. One of my favorite moves that ties in the core, ties in some shoulder stability that I've had a lot of success with, especially with people that have had rib injuries or shoulder injuries, is just a kettlebell march where we're in this 90-degree angle with our arms and we're just up here, keeping them there so our shoulder stabilizers are on. We don't want to be arched, right? That's probably going to be your first instinct, first way to go, but we want to really brace the core. We want to be tucked, and then we're going to start marching. And really slow, controlled marches. And we're just keeping those kettlebells up. I've got high bells here, but kettlebells are great for this. All the weight's up top. We're having to stabilize, stay very still. We're just stabilizing that entire shoulder girdle as well. And at the same time, just increasing the tension in our core. But it might look easy, but trust me, your shoulders are going to be burning as you get done with that one. So same thing, I like that move to be more of it's not necessarily like a rep range. We're not necessarily doing 10 or 20 marches. We're kind of going until we feel about 75%, 80% of failure, where we start losing those kettlebells. And it might be sooner, might be later for some, who knows. But definitely focus on that. So now, we're going to go into a row. What I want you to do is I want you to take one of these med balls, slam balls. If you have a Pilates ball, Pilates wheel, get one if you don't have one. Because what you're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to put it between our legs. People in the gym are probably going to be asking you what the hell you're doing, but that's all right. So we're going to go between the legs. We're going to squeeze that ball, and as we squeeze that ball, we want to really make sure core is braced. And we're just going to row in. And we're just squeezing that ball, so we're really activating that transverse abdominis. That's just so important when it comes to torso control. We're using those adductors. The adductors get overlooked a lot. And if you're hypermobile in your hips, it's not just those external rotators you want to work. You also want to work those adductors too. And then we'll switch sides. We're just keeping that core tight, keeping that ball squeezed, and we're just going into a row. Good. And then we're going to keep that ball. And I'm sure if you followed me for a while, you know I'm a big fan of a move called stir the pot. Same thing, teaching us how to properly brace our core, add in the adductors, add in that transverse abdominis. But just, it's all about torso control. So, same thing, we're going to squeeze that ball. You can see my legs are squeezing that ball. We're going to go out and then around. And we're just keeping that core tight. Your ability to control deceleration is going to be so important for those who are hypermobile and want to swing a golf club. Especially the more speed you create, the more you need to be able to decelerate efficiently and effectively. And if you can't, you're going to run into injuries. If you feel like you're always running into a left hip, if you're right-handed, a left hip injury, left arm, left wrist, left shoulder, it's most likely to do with your ability to decelerate. And you really need to make sure you have a focus on that on the gym. It's not all just about acceleration. I'm sure you guys are enjoying listening to me breathe, but this is not an easy move. And just keep that pressure on the ball. Good. And then obviously, we would switch sides. I don't really feel like making you guys stare at my backside. I'm not rich enough to afford a cameraman yet. So those are some moves that I would throw into your gym routine. Anything that really promotes torso control, ab engagement, core engagement, bird dog rows, single arm chest press in a bridge position, things like that. You really need to focus on stability before we start building that strength. And these people that are hypermobile and they're constantly trying to do speed work or whatever without the stability, you're just going to keep running into problems. So Nina, great question. Really glad you asked it. I appreciate it.